Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Charleston, and welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And today we got a show for you guys here today. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you go ahead and do that, and like the video if you haven't already. Let me just get into this topic right here. Load management is one of the biggest issues right now in the NBA. Everyone is talking about it. But what I've heard is that there's some people out there, and this is based off of some of the things I've actually heard, there's some people out there that say, no. Load management is a very good thing. The science supports it. And it's actually great because it's going to allow players to be readily available when you need them most, i.e. the playoffs. Although some players are load managing, and some teams are not even going to the playoffs, but I digress. So some people are saying you don't understand this issue very clearly. Some people have said, well, you haven't played basketball and you don't understand what lower extremity issues and how all of these things work. You don't understand it. So you need to go sit down in the corner and shut the hell up because you don't really know what it's all about. Load management is all about protecting the players. This is what we've been hearing. Right? But just yesterday, an interview came out where Paul George had a sit down on JJ Redick's show, JJ Redick podcast. And they were discussing a litany of things. But then it got to the point where they started to talk about load management. Why is this important when it comes to PG? Because Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and these guys are one of the teams that, load manage quite a bit. So the topic came up, and one would have thought that Paul George would have gone out there and said, oh yeah, well, load management is such a fantastic thing because it does X, Y, and Z for you. But as he was talking, the absolute opposite took place. Paul George started to expose how load managing and trying to protect players is actually leading to more injuries. And speaking of managing and protecting, this video is brought to you by sponsor Aura, who's also the official sponsor of the T-Wolves. Do you know what the fastest growing crime in America is today? It's identity theft. Imagine trying to log into your email only to see that your password has been changed. Then you start getting weird notifications from your bank and credit cards only to find out that all of your personal and sensitive information has been totally compromised. If you think it can happen to you and your family, just know that in 2020, over 49 million Americans were victims to identity theft, costing them a combined $56 billion. That is why we are excited to partner with Aura, who's a sponsor of this video. Aura is the #1 identity theft and financial fraud protection. Aura monitors the dark web and alerts you if any of your passwords and accounts have been breached. And funny enough, after using Aura, I discovered some of my credentials were floating around in the dark web, and the app showed me exactly when and where the breach happened. In addition, Aura allows you to set spending alerts, and they'll notify you of any suspicious transactions. Aura is 4 times faster than any of its competitors in alerting you if someone is trying to open a credit card or obtain a loan using your name. And remember this, every 14 seconds, someone becomes a victim of identity fraud. Don't let it happen to you. Now click the link in the description and try Aura for free for 2 weeks and see if any of you or your family's personal information has been compromised. Start your free trial at aura.com/dreamerspro. And when you try Aura, by using the link in the description below, also know that you're supporting this channel. Thank you. So what we want to do is we want to get into these comments that Paul George had to make. And then we're going to come back and really unpack this thing. Take a listen to what Paul George had to say here about load management. Take a listen to that.
I think it starts off like when I first came in the league, and you came in the league a lot longer than I did. Not trying to age you at all, JJ.
Sorry.
But
the older we get, just first of all, Paul, the older you and I get, the closer you are in age to me. You realize that, right?
That's true. That is true. But when I came in the league, and I went to a blue collar team that worked extremely hard. That was like the norm, like practicing hard, the 2-a-days on training camp. Like that was just like, that was the norm to me. And I enjoyed it and I loved it because it helped prepare me mentally. It helped prepare me physically. Like it prepared my body for what was to come in a long season. And I think now they're like, teams don't really practice. You know, we're not getting up and down. You know, there's just, it's a lost art when it comes to that hard practicing. And I think that's why there's so many injuries that's going on, because guys that have a high load day and then a completely off day and then a high load day. You know, back then it was, you practice hard, you got a game. You practice hard, you got a game. Then you might have a day off. Then you come right back to it. So I feel like your body just built the callus and that you were prepared for a long and rough season, to where injuries, like, you know, there wasn't that many injuries. There wasn't time to take a load off because you felt good to play. You know what I mean? And I think now it's just, it's tough. It's tough because it's almost the reverse. They think by giving us time off, it's helped managing our bodies. But in honesty, I think it's just making us weaker as players without putting that load and strain to our bodies.
Do you need to rewind the video and listen to what Paul George just said? Let me tell you why I am going to give his comments more gravity and credibility over what most people that are talking about basketball on TV and what most people are talking about basketball on YouTube are saying. I'll tell you why. Do you know why? Because Paul George is an active player playing in this NBA. That is why I think his words carry the most weight. Did you hear what the hell he said? He said that when you load a particular player, let's do it in a week, on Monday, then you reduce the load on Tuesday, you increase the load on Wednesday, you reduce the load on Thursday, you increase the load on Friday, and then you rest him. It creates a situation where the player's body is not adapting very well. And as a matter of fact, it's weakening that guy. Did y'all hear what Paul George just said? Did you also hear when he talked about what it was like to play in the NBA when he first came in, talking about 2-a-days, why he loved it? He said, I loved it because it got me physically ready and mentally ready for the rigors of an 82-game season, which brings me to two very important things this exposes. Number one, it exposes the role conditioning plays on the body. And number two, it exposes the way mental conditioning can have an effect on the body. If anyone tells you that those two aspects on physical activity are not important, they do not know what the hell they are talking about. They don't know what the hell they are talking about at all. This particular one, I don't need to play in the NBA because as someone that used to run very long distances, they used to sprint and all this when I was in college, I can tell you this literally for free. You can literally condition your body to do a range of activities by one, the things you put into your mind, and two, the activities you perform. I used to be somebody that just jogged. That's all I used to do. I used to jog. Then after a while, you can ask Marco, the co-founder of Dreamerspro. I got bored. I'm like, well, let me try something else. Let me try sprinting. Anybody that's sprinted and anybody that's jogged will tell you there are two totally different disciplines. Totally different. Sprinting involves short bursts. You need to actually increase your strength. You need to get stronger in your legs. Your core strength needs to be there. Your endurance needs to be there because it's short bursts. And I did that for about a year and a half. And Over that year and a half period, my body started getting acclimated to sprinting. My running form changed. All of those, I had to change all of my mechanics to make that work. And I was sprinting 3 times a week. I'm talking about days. I would go run, sprint 3-4 times a week. I conditioned myself to do so. Number 2, by me pushing myself every single time, it strengthened my mind. To me, that is the number one benefit of running, especially outside, is what it does to your mind, strengthening your mind. So Paul George said, I love being put in those rigorous training activities or training simulations, so to speak, because it would strengthen my mind. And there's no way you can tell me that athletically, at whatever level, that you're going to be able to perform on a high level when your mind is not as sharp as your body. There's just no way you're going to tell. Do you know what ends up happening when you have somebody that's in peak physical condition, but their brain is not there? You get players choking and all of those different things, coming up small and big moments. So what Paul George was alluding to was absolutely important. And I thought it was quite ironic that a player that actually actively participates in load managing is saying that he believes it leads to more injuries. What a damning revelation. So what comes next? What are we going to hear? People on YouTube that used to play basketball in college come up here and tell me why Paul George is wrong? Is that what's next? Is that what's next? Is that what's next? You don't need to go to Harvard University to understand this thing. All you need to do is apply some common sense and have a little bit of life experience. Usually, the more difficult the activity, the more rigorous and demanding the task is. Once you complete that task, you're going to end up being a stronger version of yourself if you get through it. This is really not complicated. It's really not. That's why people who go through a lot of tough you-know-what in life, they're usually the toughest people out there, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. People that you hide from tough situations, they don't get tough up here. So you gotta go through rigorous things. You got to do it. And this is what Paul George was talking about. Now, of course, you're going to have some people, oh, you're trying to simplify this and reduce this down to you and your stupid sprinting and all of the, but the principles still remain the same, number one. And number two, if you're going to say what I'm saying is stupid, if you're going to say what I'm saying is stupid, no problem. What Paul George saying is stupid? How are we going to debunk that? How are we going to debunk that when we have an NBA player in the NBA today saying that he believes it leads to more injuries? Constantly resting and go. He said it's better when your RPM is at a much higher level for a long time, then you rest. But I don't understand. How is this complicated? We can even apply it to a basic level of when you go to the gym and work out. I mean, how stupid are people these days? If you go to the gym and you lift weights, which we've all done, I'm sure, at one point or another, what's more difficult? Going to the gym 4 times a week and lifting weights, trying to build your strength, or going one day, resting for 2 days, going back the other day, resting for 2 days? Which one is most likely going to lead to more injuries? Which one is it going to make it more difficult for you to actually see progression? Obviously, the more frequently you do something, the better you're going to be conditioned at it. How is this complicated? But the more pauses and breaks you have between something, the more it leads to inconsistencies. How is this complicated? You don't need to be a Harvard grad to understand this. And I just love the fact that Paul George said it with his own 2 lips. I think he made a powerful point. And who I would really like to hear from are the people that are advocates of this going on for medical reasons and talking about preserving players. Because if you listen carefully, he said he believes is actually leading to more injuries. And obviously the other aspects of it, when we talk about various ways of training, you can go listen to what Tim Grover had to say about training that takes place in the NBA today. But anyway, these are my thoughts and opinions. Whatever you guys think, leave your thoughts in the comment section. We catch you guys on the next show. Peace.